Political analysts are raising concerns over the state of Nigeria's opposition as the PDP faces deepening internal crises and widespread defections. Ini Ememabon, National Publicity Secretary of PDP, speaking on Arise Morning Show, indicating both crises as trivial matters. Internal battles and leadership disputes, including issues linked to the FCT minister, have logically left the party struggling to discipline members acting against its interest. Meanwhile, external pressures are driving governors to switch allegiance, citing the need to connect to the center to secure resources for their states. Experts warn that this combination of internal turmoil and systemic pressures is reshaping Nigeria's political landscape ahead of the 2027 elections.
Well, in a just very simple question, as they say in popular slang, who they shop? In other words, who is left in the shop in PDP? Within the space of one week, you lost the governor of Osun State, you lost the governor of Rivers State, and in both states, those two governors left with, their supporters and allies into other parties. Accord Party in Osun, APC in Rivers State. Now, when you look around, who still they shop, as they say in popular slang? And do you think that the PDP still stands a chance in the 2027 election, now that it looks like the APC machinery has swept, almost the entire landscape? Almost. Because we don't know who next is also going to jump ship.
Very true. Who they shop presupposes who they pursue people come up from shop. And people will get mind to remain for shop. Because owner of shop, no, they run live in shop. So that's where it is. But again, when you look at the reason for which most of the governors have said, they said, let's connect to the center. It presupposes that there are benefits that the system, the central system, is not running an egalitarian system. It's running a nepotic system where governance favors are dispensed on the basis of political partisanship. And that calls to question whether that is how we should run it. A political party primarily being a vehicle for the assessment of power becomes the ideology through which people who aspire to those offices should execute the mandates of their office. But you now see in a situation where people just come to the public space and say, look, we are connecting to the center so that we can take benefits back home. The unsaid thing is that it means if you do not connect to the center, you don't take things home. That is clearly undemocratic, that is clearly anti-development, and that is where we need to begin the discussion from. But for the people who are still there, remember Dr. Abati that in 1998 when we started politics, we didn't have governors, we didn't have senators, but we built all of this. And that is why we are going back now to say that where did we get it wrong? The process of bringing people. Remember also that even in 1999 to 2007, there were all pressures like this, but you found people who were able to stand their ground and to exert that, look, we belong to a political party, we can't shift grounds like that. But maybe it speaks to the morality of the people we handed power to. It speaks to their inability to stand for what they believe in. And so when, like the report by Mary Chinda said, yes, how did we get to where we got? It's vicarious. Yes, we have internal issues that have led us to where we are, but we also have external pressures that nobody can deny has also led here, because you hear people say, look, we need to, for example, for some leaked videos will say, we don't want problems with the center, we want to be able to attract things. We've been here in the dark outside the center for so long, so we are not able to attract things to our people. We need to connect our people to the center so that they can begin to benefit. Should a federation run like that? It goes to the question of the type of federation we're running and the type of political systems that we are running.
I get the point around external pressures, but to be fair, others might also opine that external pressure might not have that much of an effect if internally you have things together. For instance, case in point, what happened in Osun State, in protection of his political future, the governor of Osun State, who might have stayed on in the PDP, had to fish out for another party so that come 2027, he wouldn't have or meet with surprises. So let's talk about the internal issues in the PDP PDP, and how this might have been curtailed if the PDP was firm enough to have expelled, or at least, let me use the word, punished erring members who worked against the party. But it seemed like the PDP was reluctant to do this, and that reluctance might have cost the party its life. You know, its life might have been the beginning of the end of the PDP. What do you have to say about this? Because it seems like the internal struggles are even more than the external pressures.
You know, it depends on the spectacles with which you're looking at an action. Some people may see reluctance, some may see giving time for wounds to heal. But clearly at this point now, and you know, you only know the results after the fact, because if they had also rushed to take the decisions that we have taken now, people would have said, no, you didn't give time for it to heal. I mean, you don't beat a baby and expect that baby not to cry. So at this point now, it is termed reluctance. But at that point, it was termed as forbearance. It was termed as perseverance. It was termed as understanding, in the hope that negotiations, people will be able to get off the heat of the 2023 elections, the wounds, lick their wounds, come back and resume rationality. But clearly, every passing day showed that the people were doubling down instead of reconsidering their position. Yes, decisive decisions should have been taken in 2023, but you know that you look at issues per time. At that time, you saw that we had issues surrounding should the national chairman of the party and the presidential candidate have come from the same place. Those things sounded logical. Those things sounded reasonable. But we didn't know that people were hiding under those reasons as a facade to undertake activities for which they had already purported in their mind to do so. And saying that we are not exculpating ourselves from the internal the responsibility of the internal issues that have brought us here, no, which is why the current administration is saying, can we build back again from the grassroots? Can we begin to have principles that the voices, while we respect the voices of strategic stakeholders like governors and eventually when we get to power, ministers and the president, but that the voice of the people must always be heard, because it was the neglect of the voice of the people that got us into all this crisis that we are in, which is why you could see that 2 governors objected to an action on the convention ground. Convention overrode them and still took. And I must appreciate the fact that they accepted it to say, well, these are my own personal observations, but convention has overriding power. They overrode them. If it was in the past, the position of those quality voices, minority voices, would have overridden the quantitative voices of the people. And so we are beginning to manage quality and quantity, because one should not outweigh the other. While we understand that a person who is of the high standing of a governor and holds a public office and holds the mandate of the people on the basis of a party, his voice is qualitative. But we must juxtapose that qualitative voice with the quantitative voice of the real owners of the party.